Hello, Allon, and thank you for joining me on this Thursday morning. How are you?
Yeah, very good. All good. Getting used to this lockdown. It's starting to feel a little bit normal now.
Beautiful. Stage 4, you would have thought, we're aiming for 10. Meanwhile, it works backwards. So, hopefully we'll get to 0 quite soon. We'll see how it plays itself out. It's definitely a new age. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think for me, and I know you're in the actuarial world, for me, what I'm trying to work out here is what's the new type of behavior. And it's interesting here, speaking to an actuary about, I tweeted yesterday around our obsession with predictability. And that's why you guys make a living is about that we want to be able to predict our future and predict our world. So that we can make better decisions. And so for me, the way that I see this is basically 3 stages. The first stage right now is we're in a place of chaos. And so the rules are all broken. You've got commodity prices in the negative territory, which is, in my life, unprecedented. So that must break some of your calculations there. You've got people doing completely irrational things. So I'm sure you consider irrationality, but the level of irrationality is at an all-time high right now. The hoarding of toilet paper, etc. Just some of the psychological irrationality that's going on, and then you put that all together, and then you try and work out what to do. And before, if this was normal business as usual, we're right at the end of April now, I'd look at May last year and I'd say, well, this is going to be a good year, and I'd say plus 10%, and I'd look at the past and I would make a whole bunch of assumptions and be able to relatively accurately predict what May will be like. But with all this irrationality and all these rules being broken, I can't do that anymore. And that makes decision making right now one of the hardest things, especially from an entrepreneurial point of view, to do. But what will emerge from this, I think, is the next stage, which is going to be what I've called the crystallization phase, which is, and to use a metaphor of islands, volcanic islands appearing out of the sea, where there'll be some level of predictability. There will be some things that now are not as fluid as they were before. It'll still be, from carrying on with the volcanic metaphors, there will still be movement going on, and as the volcanic rock starts to settle. But the decision making at the second level is, when is it too early to get onto this island because it's still too hot and I'll burn to death, and when is it too late? In other words, it'll be already that those spaces will be occupied by somebody else. So to watching this crystallization happening and then making that decision is a different decision making. And then we'll get back to the third phase, which is, the phase in which you and your industry thrives, which is now we want some relatively predictable data that now we can make decisions on. And we'll get back to that new normal.
Absolutely fascinating. So my history has never been, from a business perspective, predictable. I've never ever thought, let me look at last year and see how I can improve on it. But rather, I always try and shoot the lights out every year and go way beyond. It's just interesting that you say that, because I've never looked at it like that. I always say, okay, well, this year, and okay, let me reinvent myself this year, because anything can happen, and then that's the way that I approach it. And okay, what could I do this year that builds on last year, but also is completely better? And then, okay, I didn't get in touch with enough influencers. We didn't do enough video content. We didn't do enough reaching out into this sector. So let's just smash that. That's kind of, I don't know, that's the way that I've been thinking, but it's an interesting one. So let's,
Can I respond to that? Can I
God,
respond to that?
for
Just using
sure.
the same. I know you guys like models, so I'll try and give you models. Yeah. So what you're saying is the same as what I'm saying, because if you look at it from a strategy point of view, business strategy point of view, you're saying effectively, I didn't reach out enough. I didn't do that. I need to smack that, and I need to do this. It's effectively you still are trying to improve on what you have. So
Sure.
from a business from a business point of view, the way that there's always this argument about strategy versus opportunism, and in chaos, opportunism tends to reign. But in a settled environment, your strategy tends to reign. But what in an entrepreneurial environment, what I preach to our entrepreneurs is that they need to be strategically opportunistic. And what that implies is that they still have to be very true to their core competencies, understand their core competencies, be true to the core competencies. And the definition of core competencies is something that I would have in-house, that I want to invest in. I want to become world class at it, and I want to lead in that particular space. So I use my core competencies and leverage them better and better over time. So what you were saying. But in this time now, there's a different model that is emerging. And that is that this is more about the end client, your verticals is where it's going. So to give you an example, we've got a business, and this is allied to you, does funeral home policy management software with about 8 million policies running on the software. And, in a pre-COVID world, the consideration might have been, how our core competency is building software. What other software can we build, right? But in this time, it's our clients, our funeral homes. What else do they need? It's a different strategy now. Okay, it's not about core competence, it's about the vertical, right? And so the strategy, the way you think about strategy changes.
I love that. So smart, because really about getting paying clients and with your minimal viable product, and then improving on the minimal viable product with more bells and whistles, which is exactly what you're saying, because this is what your clients want. So give your clients more of what they would like. Such a beautiful thing. Okay, so for those who don't know you, you're involved. You have a big business, different tentacles in the business. One of them is schools and interacting with up and coming learners, and more so up and coming entrepreneurs. So I'm curious, when you chat with them and they say, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. Unfortunately, Mark Zuckerberg destroyed it for everybody who is actually in the working world because it looks so glamorous. The truth of the matter is the reality is not as glamorous. So what is your speech to them of getting experience working for other people in your 20s versus them wanting to be an entrepreneur? Like me, I totally discourage it. I say, go get experience. Don't worry about being an entrepreneur. Learn lessons on someone else's money. So what is your experience in chatting with them about that versus?
So I'm going to give you two perspectives. I'm going to give you, let's call it the academic perspective, and then my experience as well. So I've been an entrepreneur. I've never theoretically worked for anyone. I've been an entrepreneur since the age of 23. So I've never worked in a corporate, and the weird thing is there's a fantasy about how would I actually survive in a corporate. Would I be good? Would I be bad? Would I have risen to the top, or would my rebellious streak have meant that I would be fired? I don't know. So I live with this fantasy about what could I have been in a corporate world. And the funny thing is, when I've got a lot of clients in the corporate world, and their fantasy is the same, is what would I be as an entrepreneur? And I think what's important there is that there is let's go from an academic point of view, is that the average age of an entrepreneur that starts is 34 globally. That's according to the Kaufman Institute. The average age of a startup entrepreneur is 34. And why that's important is because of all the iconography around, Mark Zuckerberg and how he started as a teenager, and that is the norm. Those are all the false positives out there. The reality is 34 is the average. But there's an interesting thing as well, which I think you would enjoy here. There was a piece of research that I read a few years ago, which showed that the most successful first-time entrepreneurs were 60 years and older. They'd never been an entrepreneur before. So that allied to the question, are entrepreneurs born or made? Which is, I think, a subtext of what you were asking is it breaks that question, because if somebody was working at a corporate for the last 30 years, and then the first time they become an entrepreneur is at 60, and they are the most sophisticated, they are the most successful echelon of entrepreneurs, with the lowest failure rate. You can't say that they were born an entrepreneur, and you can't say they were made an entrepreneur. It's the wrong question. So that started a whole bunch of thinking for me around what was the answer to that question. And the first thing is the wrong question. The right question is what precipitates entrepreneurship. And so my theory is that there are 5 conditions that need to be present in order to precipitate as an entrepreneur. The first is that you have to perceive an opportunity, or there needs to be a threat. Every entrepreneurial story, there is somebody sees an opportunity, or there is a crisis in their life, death, divorce, COVID now, right? So there's a crisis and an opportunity, or just an opportunity.
Did you say get divorced because of COVID?
Yeah, that's going to mess with some models too. Hey, Adi. So the whole thing about opportunity, there's always an opportunity. And so this whole concept of business in a box and forcing people into entrepreneurship is a false narrative, and it's very sexy. It's a nice term, business in a box, and we'll get people to start these businesses, but it doesn't actually work that way. So number one, there has to be an opportunity. Number two, there needs to be a tolerance for pain. There's a concept in entrepreneurship called nascency. And in nascency, what it means is that from the time you get when you're in the shower and you're thinking about that idea, and by the time you get out the shower, you've probably forgotten that idea or thought of 3 other things or 30 other things. And then you get out the shower and you tell your wife, you say, babe, I've got this idea, and she says to you, no, that's a cuck idea, and so you don't listen to her, and you go to work and you go to one of your mates and you tell them the idea, and they tell you that's a cuck idea. So now you overcome that, and most people don't even get past that. But you push through because you're an entrepreneur, you think you're an entrepreneur, and then you go and you start tinkering in the evening, and you do models, and you make a minimal viable product, etc. And you go to the bank and you say, I want to go and get funding for this, and they go, no, that's a crack idea. And then you go to friends, fools, and family to get money, and they probably tell you the same, but you push through, and then you go to market, and the market tells you it's a crack idea. And so if you look at the statistics, it's a 99.9% of all ideas that start do not see the light of day. And that's called the nascency period. And that is because entrepreneurs haven't got a tolerance for pain. So every entrepreneurial story, even your story, how you started, there had to be some people who are saying, no, rather just stay where you are. But you had to push through that in order to be where you are. So that's number 2. Number 3 is a tolerance for risk. This is more your field here. I'm 52 going on 53 right now. I've got 2 kids in private school. I've got a bond on my house. If I see the opportunity and I've got a tolerance for pain, and the equivalent 25-year-old who's got no kids in private school, no bond on their home, sees an opportunity and has the same tolerance for pain that I have, who has got the highest probability of actually precipitating as an entrepreneur? It's the 25-year-old. Coming back to the 60-year-old, the 60-year-old now, kids are out of home, the bond is paid off, they've got the same risk profile, similar risk profile to the 25-year-old from a risk point of view. So that's number 3. Number 4 is a belief in the ability to muster resources. So this is not about having the resources. It's your belief, your personal belief that you can put those resources together. So you've heard the story with entrepreneurs where they say, if I knew then what I knew now, I wouldn't have done it. But what happens with entrepreneurs is if they believe, and the research, if they have the belief that they will actually put the resources together, they actually do. It's not logical, but they do. So they put the resources together.
Yeah, like the effort level is so great when you know what the effort level is that the naivety of not knowing is probably a gift. In fact, I completely know that. And I try not to look at the big picture because you'll be completely overwhelmed. You know, we're entering the US market. It's completely overwhelming, but I don't dwell on it. And one of the reasons why I don't want to know what a partner at another consultancy has gone through to build that consultancy is because it will deter me from the effort level. I'd rather just do it one coffee at a time and kind of put my blinkers on. Today is the day, you know, just for today, and just smash it. So spot on. Please carry on.
Great. And the last point, and I want you to, after I've given you these 5 points, to tell me if you tick all 5 points for yourself, and anyone watching here to basically answer that for themselves as well. And the last point is the ability to learn and iterate. So when I do this, I speak around entrepreneurship, on the subject of entrepreneurship around the globe, and there's a lot of entrepreneurs in the audience, and I do this like party trick. Yeah, and I go, okay, everyone, yeah, who show me all the people who are entrepreneurs, put up your hand, and then I'm going to take a guess now that none of you will have your hand up after my next question. How many of you are in the same business you started 6 months ago, or whenever you started the business? And they all put down their hand. And you cannot be in an entrepreneurial business and be in the same business you started on day one. And that important thing is the ability to learn and iterate. When you go out to the market and the market says to you, that's a cuck idea, right? Then, and I don't want it in green, I want it in pink with orange dots. And you don't adjust to the market. You don't come out of the nascency period. You don't survive. So the ability to learn and iterate, in other words, apply that learning, is incredibly important in terms of the companies that come out of nascency. So out of the 5, how many do you tick?
To be honest with you, I ticked 25 out of 5, to be quite honest with you. If I had to be honest, if I had to really dissect it, that's my honest opinion. Okay. So if I may, you know what, because unfortunately I've taken a beating for the last couple of years. I just want to also touch on that last point of the naysayers. Now, I don't do market research and flexibility testing. You know, I know what I want to do. If I'm happy with it, I push through anyway. Now, let's not forget, to get to this point in this business, Virtual Actuary, I had another business called iActuary for about 9 years. It was a recruitment business for actuaries. I needed to take the network of actuaries that I built over 10 years, and I needed to change it. We needed to pivot. Now, a lot of people find the word pivot glamorous. I find it end of the world if you actually need to pivot, you know. And changing your product line doesn't really mean pivoting. When I mean pivot, I mean you need to jump from one mountain to another because your mountain's on fire. You know, you're going to burn to death anyway. So, you know, LinkedIn destroyed recruitment. So my point is that I dissected 4 different ideas for 2 years myself before the 5th idea, which was Virtual Actuary. So it's not that I went, you know, I had the first idea, I was going to do like a credit card for actuaries. The second idea was like corporate gift bag with like 5 products to actuaries every month. You know, then there was like a tailoring service for actuaries. and then the one was like car branding for actuaries. I gave it some thought. My point is that for 2 years, non-stop, I dissected those ideas because the recruitment business wasn't making money. So you're like, oh my God, okay. So you take each idea and you completely dissect it. But then I decided, no, that didn't hold water. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't brilliant. It wasn't going to have exponential growth. And it was, in fact, I was going to actually go with a tailoring business because I think that's a great business. You know, we'll come to your office, we'll fix your items. You know, you don't have time as an executive to go to the alterations place. You know, we'll come in with a mobile change station. I was going to go with that idea. But then at the midnight hour, I thought about Virtual Actuary, a consultancy. We open a consortium of actuaries. We'll compete against the big consultancies. That was the fifth idea. And when I heard that one, when I thought about that one rather, and I went to check if the .com was available, because that was like, you know, you go to like GoDaddy.com and you find the .com and it's available. You're like, you know, it's meant to be. So my point is that it wasn't that I took the first idea and I went with it and then the naysayers distracted me. I rather dissected those ideas myself. When I came up with the last idea, it wasn't that I specifically, and I think it's a lesson learned to anybody who's constantly, their default is, to add to what you're saying, their constant default is, what do you think? Do you think I should change it? Do you like the color? For me, it was like, you know, you go to the designer, what's the color? I love it. Go with it. What's the logo? I love it. Go with it. Is this how it's going to operate? I love it. Go with it. And the market will learn if it's a good enough idea and you believe in it yourself, the market will learn to accept it. It's like, what's a brilliant company name? It's like you can come up with any company name. It could be the worst company name you've ever thought of in your life. But the reality, or the worst logo you've ever seen in your life, but go look at a successful company, you know, and go look at their logo, it's probably cuck. You're thinking, how is it possible that this company can be multi-billion-dollar company? The cuckest logo I've ever seen, like a little man standing with his hand out. Makes no sense. So the point is that the market will learn to accept you if you perceive yourself as successful. Their default will be, okay, well, I mean, there's obviously something here. So my whole thing is, take it on the chin, but don't crawl up into a ball when people, oh no, we're almost running out of time. It's so amazing. You know, we go so, there's so much time. So, okay, I don't want to, okay. The next question, the next question is this. So you're a small market player and you want to enter a big market. You know, we'll kind of finish on this note. Like you know, you're in the schools business, but you don't have 50 schools. I don't know how many schools you got, whatever the case may be. You know, you're a smallish player. You're like with us, we're a small consultancy. We're going into a big market, a big, you know, wolf pack that we're competing against. What is the mindset? And you did touch on it before, a little bit about finding gaps and so on. Very, very important to find those gaps. What is the mindset of somebody small going into a big market and looking to enter and I guess take over?
Sure. It's a big question. It's a very open-ended question. Let me try and give you some pointers there. So the first thing is there's some cliched stuff that you have to have something unique. The issue around uniqueness is that uniqueness is only unique for a while. It's copied, right? So the moment you go out with any kind of product, you can be assured that within in the tech industry, it can be within days it's copied. In maybe the other industries, it will be weeks or months or even years that happens. So you cannot rely, and this is a false narrative in the market that uniqueness is going to protect me. Uniqueness needs to be something that you live and breathe in, is a constant thing. It's not a once-off thing. And what small business make the mistake of saying, oh, I've got this very specialized thing. I'm going to enter this market with these big guys. They enter there feeling a false sense of safety. And within literally weeks or months, they're copied and they're basically crushed. So you've got to use difference, uniqueness, in order to create what they call dominance. So there are two theories in basically in strategies in business. One is the whole thing about uniqueness or innovation, right? And the other is around dominance, called the concept of market dominance. And the whole idea is around market dominance. So if you've got a market dominance mindset, it's about gaining market share all the time. And you use innovation to do that. So for as long as you don't use your innovation to grow, in other words, if you put it out there and then you protect it, you're going to be crushed back to zero. Okay. So you've got to keep using that and that as a tool to become market dominant. So when you enter as a small individual into the market, you've got to see yourself as having a machine around innovation, and then using that machine to gain market share, to gain market share, to gain market share. And then the last point is then to put as much protection around that, put as much protection around that as possible. So those are the sort of the three steps: innovate, gain market share, protect. Innovate, gain market share, protect.
Very, very nice. And I mean, I think, you know, if we look at the term, the fourth industrial revolution, because that's where we're at, a lot of people say, oh, it's robotics, it's like hectic, you know, teleportation devices, like completely over the top. So that's not my take. My take is using the tools that are available today that were not available 20 years ago, that allows the small person to compete with the big corporate at exactly the same level. So we're talking about back in the day, you were a big firm, you wanted to put out some content, you needed massive production company, massive budget to be able to put the content out there. Here we are, 2 seconds, 1, 2, 3, doesn't cost us anything. Content is created. We are a production studio for our business ideas. It's exactly the same thing. So, you know, what do you think could be some of the tools that you think people should be using today to be able to compete with some of their competitors that are maybe a little bit bigger? Like with us, it's AWS. We don't need a server. So just off the top of your head, some of the things like normal answers like a cell phone and a laptop and a decent camera. That's great answers as well. You know, Google searches and you know, document templates online from an admin perspective. Anything that sticks out, because we are in the fourth industrial revolution.
Yeah, you know, for me, once again, I think we might share a little bit of cynicism or maybe skepticism is a better word around the 4R story. I wrote an article a couple of months ago around the fact that it's not about 4IR, it's 4MR, for my reality, not for fourth industrial revolution. And so what you're seeing is in the developing world is you're seeing pockets of 4IR, but you know, you can have a 4IR technology which is basically providing, from an agricultural point of view, the ability to provide the right fertilizer for this exact plant at the right time, and it'll have introduced satellite imagery and this and heat maps and all sorts of things, and it will know that this particular plant needs this kind of thing, and a drone will come in there and it'll drop that kind of fertilizer on them, and that's all wonderful. But if that tomato can't get to market because there's no roads or the cold chain is not developed properly, then it doesn't matter that you've got 4R if you can't get that to market. So I think in the real opportunity, I think most people will see 4R as in the bot that comes onto a website, and they're going to experience it in all different ways, and they won't have, they will be consumers of 4R. They won't be actually producers of 4R. They'll consume some of the tools, etc., like you pointed out. But I think a better way to think about it is, what are the gaps between 4R and 4 people's reality? And that's where the money is made. And rather look for the opportunities there. So I know I'm not answering your question the way that you asked me, because I think, you know, it's all the cliched stuff. But I think just, you know, to think about this differently It's about for MR, not for IR.
I mean, you've taken my mind and you've shifted it to how to interact with fourth industrial revolution, to how to create products and systems for. Unbelievable. It's like I thought I knew something today, and then I realized I knew nothing. So thanks for that.
I feel like that every day, and if you're married, you get reminded of that every day too.
I have to go eat some ice cream to feel better about myself. Very nice. So yeah, I guess as we go into our Thursday, it's I'm gonna dive into my coffee. My main focus is everything we've discussed is the glamorous fun stuff, but the reality is get on the phone, answer your emails, make sure that the work that you have on the go is seamless, make sure that your invoices are going out, make sure that you don't run a messy business, because messy businesses pile up like messy homes, and you walk in, it's like, oh, what the hell is going on here? So I think really for me, just to remind myself that a clean business that is running like a good oiled machine is actually the way to go. Any thoughts just in finalizing on that kind of like clean mindset?
Yeah, to me, order. So two last points on that. So I believe that money is made at the edge of order and chaos. Okay, so if you bring order to chaos, that's where money is made. If you think about if you've ever been to a game reserve and you've got this very manicured lawn, and then you look out, it's like there's an appeal about the order that you're in, but looking out into the chaos. If you look at the history of our successful entrepreneurs, they are the people who bring order to chaos. So if you have the ability, like you say, to work in a very ordered context, your mindset is better attuned to actually bringing order to chaos out there. And right now, the reason why I'm so excited, I mean, let me not say this. I'm not nervous. I'm not feeling threatened in this thing, in this time. But I'm also feeling incredibly excited because there is so much chaos. We started this conversation talking about chaos. There's so much chaos out there. And I am a very ordered thinker. I like to think in an ordered way. I live in a very ordered environment, and I understand that money is made when you bring order to chaos. So I'll give you that perspective. I know I'm trying not to give you cliched answers, Adi.
You know what? This has been very enlightening, and that's why I always look up to successful, established business people to have these conversations, because they, like a chiropractor, they just realign. You go to the chiropractor, you feel like you're walking on water when you leave. You actually change religion because but beautiful. Allon, I've thoroughly enjoyed our session. I hope to possibly do another one soon or sometime.
Cool. Thanks, Adi. Thanks for your time. Thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Beautiful. Take care. Cheerio.